Hi everybody, Decent Eddie here. It's Monday, April 14th, 2025. Since January 8th through the end of the regular NBA season, I tracked 625 NBA games and finished at 432 correct and 193 incorrect. That's 69%. I had 235 confident picks and closed out at 190 correct and 45 incorrect. That's 81%. Here we are at the playoffs. The data set is the same, but the results of the data need to be discussed before we start throwing money around tomorrow. My picks are based on data, and I give you my picks hours before tip-off so you can do your own research. And remember, always check any matchup news, any injury reports before placing any bets. Data alone can't read sports news and injury reports. That's all up to you. My mission is, was, and will always be to help beginners and those who've had bad luck make more informed picks. My data set focuses on moneyline picks. While you can use my commentary for against the spread bets, my data isn't optimized for that. So when you're betting against the spread, remember you're hoping a team under or overperforms against expectations, while my data reflects actual past performances, not expectations. There are no games to discuss today, but we do have matters that bear discussion, the first of which is the data set. The data I measure and rank for scores is exactly the same, but what's the difference? Well, there's only 20 teams in that now. Because of this, the floor has been raised considerably, but the ceiling really hasn't. Where we had the worst score in the 24 to 27 score range, we now have the worst score at 17. The floor is 10 to 13 points higher. So what this means is, going forward, the majority of the matchups are going to live in the danger, and suboptimal zone. The first 4 games coming up are all in that zone, with the broadest differential in those 4 games being 1.833, which is normally 55% chance of my favorite winning. That's a coin toss. There is the mathematic probability of some matchups landing in the Decent Eddie comfort zone, but there won't be many. Okay, fact 1 is out of the way. So what do we do with that? Well, what we do, folks, is we be cautious. Now, that doesn't mean boring, or at least not deadly boring, at least. But it is just plain boring. Like I've always said, always do research in addition to the data that I give you. I know research is boring, but before you pick any picks, whether you're using my data or anybody else's for that matter, you got to do research. And just because a matchup is in my danger zone, suboptimal zone, or the lowest rung of the Decent Eddie confident pick zone, doesn't mean there are no picks to make. To the contrary, don't forget my danger picks as a whole went at 57% correct. And my suboptimal picks, they went to 69% in that range. You combine those two with the lowest rung of the confident zone, which was 75%, that's 495 games. 321 of those games went correct, and only 174 went incorrect. That's 65%, or 64.8 if you really want to get picky. Now, just going off raw picks, that's not bad. Really, I mean, if you did your reading in those matchups, you also knew where the pivot point was against my data sometimes if you didn't overthink it. And doing that, your number goes into the 70% range or higher pretty easily. And if you're over 70% in sports betting, honestly, in the real world, that's not bad at all. But you had to read at least one game report to know that you should pivot in the first place. What my picks do, hopefully, is give you some measure of increased confidence going one way or another. It is not, and never should be, the golden goose where my picks are the only thing you go by. That's flattering if you have, but it's reckless. Fact number 2, you should remember this. I mean, if nothing else, you should remember that my data is from the regular season. This includes the last week of the regular season, where some teams may not have included their normal rotation in those games. Now, the good news is my data set is a mix of season totals, recent games, and very recent game statistics. Also, as games are continuing, I'll be updating my data set regularly, just like during the regular season, and that'll even things out too. But this is another reason why researching your picks is important. You got to balance all that data against, what's actually happening like in the news, in the real world, right? Use data as a guide, but don't forget that there's intangibles that sports writers sometimes write about that you want to pay attention to. I'll say, for example, you've got, let me pull it up here. Let me pull it up real quick. You've got well, let's talk about Heat and Bulls, all right? I'm not going to give you my number right now, but what I will tell you right now is the Heat gets my pick. It's not, it is a danger pick, but it is still a pick. However, I know, and almost every sports writer should know, that the Bulls versus Heat, the Bulls beat them 3 times. The Bulls beat the Heat 3 times. You can't ignore that. You also can't ignore the fact that you're playing in Chicago, the greatest city on earth. And you also have to pay attention to the fact that, man, after the All-Star break, the Bulls, they weren't perfect, but the Bulls had a pretty good second half of the season. In fact, they had a really good second half of the season. So my number still says Heat, and I'll put a dime on that, just, again, for the sake of data. If I'm not going to track my data, what's the point of doing all this? But man, the Bulls look good. The Bulls look good, man. And so I know that that if there's a spread involved, and if my number says the underdog, I might take the points on the spread with the underdog just to kind of give me insurance. That's kind of how I do it. But I'm just explaining to you why the research matters. My numbers are trustworthy, but it's a danger pick, and at a 0.1, that's like a 55% chance. For I already gave you my number. Oh, well, we're gonna keep it. We're doing this all in one take. It's a 55% chance for them. Okay, so you got to do your research, folks. You got to do your research. Don't just take my data or anyone else's on faith. Data can't show you the news. Be smart with your money, even if it's just for fun. Okay. Sorry there's no picks today. I like to give my picks on the day of, so that way we don't get any confusion. Tomorrow I'll be giving picks for that day's games and Wednesday's games. I know I just said I like to give picks on the day of the game, but it's 4 games. You'll figure it out. You're smart, I think. All right, so anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get my picks hours ahead of time. For more, head over to Decent Eddie Picks on Instagram or find me on Facebook. You can find me on X at Decent Eddie Picks, spelled P-I-X. You'll see a deeper dive into my data. You'll see my Decent Eddie grades for all the teams, which I updated just today, and any last-minute thoughts that I might have, even though this video had a lot of tangent thoughts anyway. But let's see what happens going forward here. I'll reveal my picks tomorrow for the Tuesday and Wednesday games, like I said. This is Decent Eddie signing off. Have an awesome day.